Have you ever wondered what makes a car unforgettable? Not just memorable because of speed or power, but legendary because of how it made people feel. Some cars are remembered for their engines, others, for their design, but a few are broken, bar a very rare few, are remembered for something deeper, something subtle, a single feature that touched people's lives in a quiet but powerful way. And in 1974, the Mercury Marquis Brougham did exactly that. This wasn't just a car, it was an experience, one that made drivers and passengers feel like they were gliding through life, wrapped in silence and softness. But what made it stand out wasn't under the hood. It wasn't about torque or top speed. It was about comfort, not just physical comfort, but emotional comfort. A sense of calm, of control, of confidence. And believe it or not, this came down to one very specific feature, a feature that no other car offered in quite the same way. Now, before we dive in and reveal what that feature was, let's take a step back. The year is 1974. The automotive world is changing fast. Gas prices are soaring. People are nervous. The muscle car era is dying, and a new kind of desire is emerging. People no longer want to dominate the road, they want to escape from it. They want quiet. They want softness. They want something that soothes the mind after a long day, not something that shouts for attention. And that's where the Mercury Marquis Brougham enters the scene, not as a sports car, but as a rolling sanctuary. A place where stress melted away and the outside world felt distant. At a time when uncertainty was everywhere, the Brougham gave people something that felt certain, solid, safe. But here's the twist. It wasn't just the size, or the V8 engine, or even the smooth ride. It was one hidden gem of a feature that made this car legendary, something you'll probably wish modern cars still had. Stick with this video until the end, and you'll discover how this one design choice captured the hearts of thousands, how it connected to something deep in our psychology, our need for comfort, for peace, and for that rare feeling of being home, even when you're on the move. Trust me, if you love cars not just for what they do, but for what they mean, you're going to want to know what made the 1974 Mercury Marquis Brougham unforgettable. To understand why this car and that one unique feature mattered so much, we need to step into the world of the 1970s. It wasn't just a different time, it was a different mindset. And in that mindset, cars meant something more than just transportation. By 1974, the United States was facing its first major oil crisis. Gas prices had spiked almost overnight. Lines at the pump stretched for blocks. Suddenly, owning a big, fuel-hungry car didn't feel like freedom, it felt like a burden. People were anxious. The economy was tight, and automakers were forced to adapt. But while the muscle car era was fading, a new demand was rising. Americans still wanted to feel good behind the wheel, but now, they craved comfort more than speed. A car wasn't just about getting somewhere quickly. It was about how you felt while getting there. It became a space where people could escape from the noise, the pressure, and the uncertainty of daily life. Human psychology tells us something important here. When the world outside feels unstable, we naturally seek stability in our personal spaces. We gravitate toward softness, warmth, and predictability. We want things that remind us of safety, even luxury. Cars, in that moment, became emotional cocoons. And this is where full-size American sedans found their moment. These cars didn't try to impress with lap times. They impressed with silence, with long, soft rides, with thick carpets, wide doors, and interiors that felt more like living rooms than cockpits. People weren't just buying vehicles, they were buying comfort, status, and most importantly, reassurance. The Mercury Marquis Brougham understood this better than most. It wasn't a car designed to race hearts. It was designed to calm them. Every detail from the sweeping lines on the body to the low rumble of its V8 was about making the driver feel in control, while making passengers feel at ease. And within that carefully crafted space, one feature would rise above all the rest. One that didn't just reflect the values of the 70s but elevated them. A feature born from psychology, shaped by design, and remembered by everyone who ever sat in it. As the 1970s unfolded, a new category began to dominate the American road: the personal luxury car. It wasn't built for speed. It wasn't built for hauling. It was built for the individual who wanted to feel important behind the wheel. Someone who wanted to be seen, not because of power, but because of presence. Psychologically, this trend made perfect sense. With the world outside becoming more stressful, people turned inward. They began to value personal space and emotional satisfaction. Cars became expressions of identity, not just tools of movement. Driving became a private moment of luxury, especially in a culture that increasingly rewarded outward signs of comfort and success. Personal luxury cars delivered on that feeling. Long bodies, padded roofs, hidden headlights, opera windows, and chrome that caught the light just right. These weren't just design choices. They were signals. Signals that said, "I've made it." Every inch of the vehicle was crafted to mirror success. But the most important part? The experience inside. Inside, these cars were quiet. The steering was light. The seats were wide and forgiving. Suspensions were tuned for softness, not speed. The ride was meant to feel like a glide. For many owners, this wasn't just transportation. It was the most peaceful part of their day. Automakers understood this shift and responded quickly. Ford, General Motors, and Chrysler all began to refine their full-size sedans and coupes, turning them into personal sanctuaries. And in this race to deliver comfort and class, Mercury saw an opportunity. The Marquis Brougham wasn't just a bigger version of a sedan. It was Mercury's statement in the world of personal luxury. It had to compete with the likes of the Lincoln Continental, the Oldsmobile 98, and the Buick Electra. That meant it needed more than space. It needed soul. It needed to deliver a feeling, and this is exactly where the Marquis Brougham excelled. By understanding what buyers really wanted: emotional calm, personal pride, and effortless control. It gave them an experience they couldn't forget. The kind of experience that didn't just meet expectations. A broken bar. It became a memory. And that memory began with a single, genius feature. The 1974 Mercury Marquis Brougham didn't drive quietly. It entered the market like a whispered promise of elegancy, a powerful, but never loud. At a glance, it looked like the kind of car that didn't need to prove anything. Long, low, and commanding, it was built to glide, not rush. It didn't chase attention. It owned it. Under the Ford Motor Company, Mercury had always positioned itself between Ford's practicality and Lincoln's luxury. But with the Brougham, Mercury leaned hard into refinement. This wasn't just an upgraded sedan. It was a carefully crafted statement piece for people who valued presence and peace over flash and fury. The 1974 Brougham was massive, over 225 inches long, with a V8 engine under the hood. It carried the kind of road presence that made other vehicles feel small. But despite its size, the car never felt aggressive. That was the magic. It exuded confidence without shouting. The chrome trim, hidden headlamps, and vinyl roof details all played into this balance: a classic elegance with quiet dominance. Psychologically, this approach worked beautifully. People are drawn to objects that mirror how they want to feel: calm, steady, and in control. The Brougham didn't promise adventure. It promised comfort. It made the driver feel important, without demanding attention. And in the midst of an oil crisis, when people felt uncertainty creeping into every corner of life, That kind of emotional reassurance meant everything. But it wasn't just about the exterior. Step inside the brougham, and the tone shifted even further. Plush carpeting, thickly padded doors, wood grain accents, and a dashboard layout that felt more like a lounge than a cockpit. Every surface was soft. Every control felt deliberate. This wasn't just a car interior, it was an environment. Mercury didn't want you to feel like you were driving. They wanted you to feel like you were being transported effortlessly, silently, with dignity. The ride was smooth, the cabin was quiet, and the mood was relaxed. For many owners, this was their escape, their moving sanctuary. And at the heart of it all, the experience was shaped by one feature, one element that made the Brougham not just luxurious but legendary. There's a reason why some cars feel more memorable than others, even decades later. It's not always the horsepower, or the design, or even the sound. Often, it's how the car made you feel, and that feeling is rooted in something deeper than steel and leather. It's rooted in human psychology. Our brains are wired to seek comfort. Especially during times of uncertainty, we're drawn to environments that feel safe, soft, and familiar. Psychologists call this environmental reassurance. It's the same reason we relax when we walk into a cozy room, or feel at peace when wrapped in a warm blanket. It's not about utility, it's about emotional grounding. The 1974 Mercury Marquis Brougham delivered that exact feeling, but on wheels. It wasn't just a car, it was an emotional retreat, a mobile comfort zone, and that was no accident. From the moment you sat down, your body reacted. The seats were soft, the cabin was wide, and the sound insulation was heavy. It felt like the outside world had been muted. That's not just engineering, it's emotional design. When the ride is smooth, when the space around you feels controlled and quiet, your stress levels naturally decrease. The Brougham wasn't just easing road bumps, it was easing the nervous system. Car lovers didn't just admire the Brougham for its looks. They remembered it because of how it made them feel relaxed, important, at peace. The car fed a deep psychological need to escape, even if only for a few miles. Comfort is powerful. It builds attachment, and it becomes memory. People don't recall the exact horsepower of the Brougham, or its quarter-mile time, but they remember sinking into the seats. They remember the silence, the stillness, the way the world seemed to slow down inside that cabin. That emotional connection is why cars like the Brougham live on in collectors' hearts, because they didn't just serve a purpose, they served the soul. And within that atmosphere of calm and care, one design feature stood out as the center of it all, a detail so thoughtfully created. It didn't just support the experience, it defined it. In a car filled with thoughtful design and quiet elegance, there was one feature that stood above the rest. Not because it was flashy, not because it was expensive, but because it touched something deeper, something emotional. That feature was the twin comfort lounge seats. At first glance, they looked like ordinary front seats, but they were anything but ordinary. These weren't basic bench seats or hard-backed buckets. They were wide, deeply cushioned, and carefully sculpted to cradle the body, not just support it. Each seat was individually contoured, with a soft yet structured feel that encouraged you to relax the moment you sat down. What made them legendary wasn't just their softness, it was the intention behind them. Each seat was separated by a large center armrest that created a personal space for the driver and passenger. This wasn't just physical space, it was psychological space. It gave both people their own zone of comfort, their own moment of peace, and that matters. Studies in environmental psychology show that when people are given a sense of personal space, especially in confined areas, they experience less stress and greater emotional satisfaction. The twin comfort lounge seats didn't just provide luxury, they tapped directly into that psychological principle. They made each ride feel private, personal, and emotionally calming. Even better, these seats were available with optional 6-way power adjustment. That meant you could fine-tune your position with almost no effort. You weren't just in the car, you were settled in it, supported, cradled, and centered. It felt like sitting in your favorite chair at home, except you were moving down the highway. Owners still talk about these seats, not because of how they looked, but because of how they felt. They remember long road trips where they didn't feel tired, commutes that felt like breaks, and those quiet moments, sitting still in the driveway, not wanting to get out. In the end, it was a simple concept executed perfectly. Make people feel good, and they'll never forget you. The twin comfort lounge seats did exactly that, and that's why this feature turned the 1974 Mercury Marquis Brougham into a true automotive legend. While the twin comfort lounge seats were the emotional anchor of the 1974 Mercury Marquis Brougham, their effect wouldn't have been as powerful without another critical ingredient: to silence. Not just the absence of noise, but a carefully engineered quiet that made every moment in the car feel peaceful, even sacred. Mercury engineers knew that comfort wasn't only physical, it was sensory. And sound, or the lack of it, plays a major role in human perception. Studies in acoustic psychology show that noise triggers the brain's alert systems. Constant background sound, like engine rumble or road vibration, can increase cortisol levels and make the body feel tense even if you don't consciously notice it. The Brougham turned that science into strategy. The car was built with thick insulation, layered under carpets, behind panels, and inside doors. Every crevice was filled to reduce outside intrusion. The windows were sealed tight. The suspension was tuned not just to absorb bumps, but to prevent vibrations from entering the cabin. Even the engine, though powerful, was muffled to a smooth, low hum barely noticeable from inside. The result was a driving experience that felt emotionally different. When you closed the door of the Marquis Brougham, the world outside didn't just fade, it disappeared. Conversations felt more personal. Music sounded fuller. You could hear yourself think, and that mattered, because it allowed the mind to relax in ways most cars never achieved. Owners often describe this quietness as the most surprising part of the Brougham. You didn't expect it from a car that large, but once you experienced it, everything else felt inferior. It became a benchmark not just for noise control, but for the emotional environment a car could create. This commitment to silence wasn't just luxury for luxury's sake. It was a direct appeal to the human need for calm, clarity, and escape. And when combined with the plush seats and soft suspension, it created an atmosphere that was more than comfort, it was therapeutic. The Brougham didn't just transport you physically. It offered a moment of stillness in a noisy world, and that kind of quiet stays with you forever. In 1974, the world was changing rapidly, and so were people's expectations from their cars. The oil crisis had altered how Americans viewed fuel efficiency and cost. But beneath that was an even more profound shift. People were searching for peace in a chaotic world. They wanted escape, not just from the worries of rising prices and shortages, but from the noise and stress of everyday life. The Mercury Marquis Brougham was designed to meet that need, and it did so with a deep understanding of human psychology. People were tired. Tired of worrying, tired of the hustle and bustle, and they needed a place to unwind, to let go of the constant pressure. In the midst of that uncertainty, Mercury created a car that didn't just offer transportation, but a sanctuary. It wasn't just about getting from point A to point B, it was about the journey itself. The Brougham offered a feeling of control, of comfort, and, most importantly, of safety. It was a cocoon of calm, allowing owners to escape, even if just for a short while, from the stress of the outside world. This was more than a luxury feature, it was a psychological release. Imagine driving through traffic, the weight of the day pressing down on you. Then, you slide into the plush seats of the Marquis Brougham, and suddenly, the world feels quieter. The constant hum of the engine, the vibrations of the road, all of it fades away. You feel isolated from the chaos, surrounded by soft materials, by a low, comforting hum, and by a design that encourages relaxation. That feeling wasn't something you could get from just any car. It was something unique to the Brougham, and it was something that became essential for its owners. This wasn't about luxury for the sake of luxury. It wasn't just about looking wealthy, it was about feeling wealthy in terms of peace, comfort, and emotional relief. In a time when everything else seemed unpredictable, the Brougham gave people the one thing they craved the most: emotional stability. The way the Brougham made people feel mattered in ways that went far beyond what the spec sheet could show. It wasn't just the sum of its parts, it was the emotional experience that turned it into a legend. The 1974 Mercury Marquis Brougham didn't just make an impression, it set a new standard. In an era of change, it tapped into something universal: the desire for comfort, calm, and control. The luxury it offered wasn't about being ostentatious, it was about being personal. It was about creating a space where drivers and passengers felt like they could truly unwind. And that resonated deeply with consumers. Before the Brougham, full-size cars were often about size, speed, and power. But the Brougham was about something different. It was about crafting an environment that felt like home on the road. It showed the automotive world that comfort could be as desirable as horsepower. It proved that luxury didn't need to shout, it could whisper, quietly drawing you in with every detail. This shift in focus changed the way people thought about cars. Suddenly, consumers weren't just considering performance or exterior styling. They were thinking about the experience inside the car, or their emotional connection to it. The Brougham wasn't just a vehicle, it was a retreat from the noise of the world. It offered an experience that few other cars could match. And it made drivers realize that they didn't need to sacrifice comfort for style. Even more importantly, it redefined what it meant to drive a car. It wasn't about being the fastest or the flashiest. It was about how the car made you feel. The Marquis Brougham connected with owners on an emotional level, providing them with a driving experience that was as much about mental peace as physical comfort. The car's influence didn't just last through the 1970s. It paved the way for future luxury vehicles, pushing automakers to think beyond performance and towards emotional satisfaction. Today, when we talk about the emotional connection between car and driver, we owe a lot of that conversation to the 1974 Mercury Marquis Brougham. The Brougham didn't just create a legacy in terms of sales, it created a legacy in terms of what people expect from their cars. It was one of the first cars to put the driver's emotional well-being at the center of its design, and for that, it remains a timeless classic. The 1974 Mercury Marquis Brougham wasn't just a car, it was a statement. And even decades after it was first released, that statement still resonates. Today, the Brougham stands as a collector's item, revered not only for its luxury but for the experience it offers. When you think of classic cars, you often think of rare sports cars or powerful muscle machines. But the Brougham carved out its own niche, standing proudly among those giants for one simple reason: it continues to offer something unique. One of the key reasons the Brougham still holds value is its ability to evoke a feeling of nostalgia. Classic car enthusiasts are often drawn to the idea of a time when cars were more than just machines, they were pieces of art, built with intention and precision. The Brougham, with its luxurious features and timeless design, embodies that era. Its plush interior, its quiet ride, and its thoughtful details take owners and admirers back to a time when driving was more than just a task, it was an experience. Moreover, the Brougham represents a moment in history when cars were more about presence and comfort than raw performance. In today's world, where many cars are designed for efficiency or speed, the Brougham's emphasis on relaxation and luxury feels like a rare treasure. In a way, It's a reminder of what cars once symbolized: personal space, emotional comfort, and an escape from the fast-paced world. That's not something you find in modern cars as often, making the Brougham an increasingly sought-after model. Beyond nostalgia, the Brougham is also valued for its design and craftsmanship. Cars built during this era were often made with attention to detail, using materials that are no longer in production today. The quality of the seats, the smoothness of the ride, and the meticulous engineering that made the car so quiet, these elements have helped the Brougham retain its status as a true collectible. For collectors, owning a 1974 Mercury Marquis Brougham is like owning a piece of automotive history. It's not just a car, it's a symbol of a time when driving was more about the journey and the experience than the destination. And as time passes, that value only grows. The 1974 Mercury Marquis Brougham didn't just carve its own legacy, it paved the way for the luxury cars that followed. Its focus on comfort, silence, and emotional well-being wasn't just a passing trend, it was a blueprint for future generations of luxury vehicles. Automakers watched the success of the Brougham closely and saw that people were craving something deeper than just flashy exterior designs or powerful engines. They wanted an experience, and the Brougham showed them how to deliver it. The influence of the Brougham on future luxury cars can be seen in how manufacturers began to prioritize interior experiences. It was no longer enough for cars to look good from the outside or accelerate fast. The real value lay in the cabine, or the space where drivers spent the majority of their time. The Brougham, with its plush interiors, quiet ride, and thoughtful touches, set the standard for how manufacturers should approach comfort. One of the biggest ways the Brougham influenced future cars was through its emphasis on ride quality and noise reduction. Today, we often take the silent, smooth ride of modern luxury sedans for granted, but it was the Brougham that made this an expectation, not an exception. Other car makers soon followed suit, creating vehicles designed to isolate the driver from the outside world, quieting road noise, minimizing vibration, and creating a sanctuary on wheels. The Brougham also helped redefine what luxury could be. It wasn't just about luxury materials like leather and wood, it was about the feeling those materials evoked. It wasn't about how rich the car looked, it was about how the car made you feel when you were inside. This shift in understanding luxury, from outward appearances to emotional comfort, is something that luxury brands like Mercedes-Benz, BMW, and Lexus have embraced in the decades since. Even in today's high-tech automotive world, where infotainment systems and autonomous features are all the rage, the lessons learned from the Brougham still resonate. The focus on human-centered design, on creating an environment that feels right, that nurtures the mind and body, has become the foundation for much of what we now expect from a luxury car. The Mercury Marquis Brougham didn't just change the landscape of the 1970s, it laid the groundwork for the luxury vehicles we know and love today. As with all things, the life of the 1974 Mercury Marquis Brougham was finite. By the late 1970s, changes in the automotive industry, fuel crises, and shifting consumer demands began to affect the popularity of full-size luxury cars. The Brougham, once a symbol of quiet elegance and comfort, started to fade from the spotlight. The rise of smaller, more fuel-efficient vehicles in response to the oil crisis further pushed full-sized cars like the Marquis Brougham into the background. As the 1980s arrived, the world had changed, and so had the car market. But despite its decline in production and the gradual shift in consumer preferences, the legacy of the Marquis Brougham continued to hold weight. In a world where speed and performance took center stage, the Brougham's emphasis on comfort and emotional connection remained a point of reverence for car enthusiasts and collectors alike. Its decline wasn't a reflection of a lack of demand, but rather the changing landscape of the automotive world. Luxury was shifting, but the Brougham's ability to provide sanctuary, silence, and relaxation remained unmatched. As the years passed, the Brougham became more of a collector's item than a daily driver. Car enthusiasts began to look back at the model as a standout example of automotive design from a time when comfort wasn't just a luxury, it was a necessity. Owners who cherished the Marquis Brougham held on to them for years, valuing the quiet drive and the sense of relaxation the car provided. Even as technology evolved, the emotional connection people felt to their Brougham remained strong. It wasn't just a car, it was a time capsule, representing an era when driving was as much about peace as it was about performance. Today, the Brougham stands as a reminder of what once was, and of the quiet revolution it sparked in luxury car design. The features that once made the Brougham stand out, to its plush interior, its tranquil ride, its focus on human-centered comfort, continue to influence how we think about cars and their role in our lives. The Brougham may no longer be in production, but its legacy is felt in every luxury sedan that values emotional connection as much as performance. The Marquis Brougham didn't just fade into history, it laid the foundation for how we experience comfort in cars today, and for that, it will always be remembered. The Mercury Marquis Brougham's impact wasn't limited to its engineering or its place in automotive history, it also left a lasting mark on pop culture. While other cars of the 1970s, like the muscle cars or the iconic sports sedans, often became symbols of speed and power, the Brougham became a symbol of elegance, sophistication, and quiet luxury. It was a car that resonated with a certain kind of buyer, those who valued experience over ego, comfort over competition. In the world of automotive culture, the Brougham didn't just signify wealth. It represented a lifestyle, one that prioritized the journey over the destination. For owners, driving the Brougham wasn't a bragging point, it was a personal pleasure. It became a part of their identity, representing a moment of personal peace in a rapidly changing world. The Brougham's understated luxury also made it a favorite among car enthusiasts who appreciated subtlety. Unlike the loud, brash cars of the era, the Brougham whispered luxury rather than shouting it. This quiet approach to high-end design made it a unique choice for those who wanted to stand apart without drawing attention. This shift in how luxury could be perceived, where comfort, silence, and personal space took precedence, would echo throughout the auto industry and beyond. In films and television, the Brougham also found its way into the limelight, often symbolizing a character's calm sophistication or their desire for solitude. Its clean, classic lines and luxurious interior made it a perfect backdrop for scenes requiring a sense of refinement and power without overt flashiness. In many ways, the Brougham became a cultural shorthand for success and grace, with its influence felt in both the automotive world and in broader cultural depictions of luxury. As the years passed, the Mercury Marquis Brougham became more than just a car, it became a symbol of a particular time in American history. It was a reminder of an era when the world seemed quieter, when luxury was about feeling good rather than showing off. And while the car itself may not be a household name to everyone today, its cultural influence and the emotional connections it created continue to inspire a new generation of car lovers and collectors. The Brougham wasn't just a vehicle, it was a cultural icon. It reflected an era's desire for peace, quiet, and personal luxury, and its legacy is still felt in the cars we cherish today. What makes the 1974 Mercury Marquis Brougham so enduring? Despite the changes in the automotive industry, despite the shift in design trends, the Brougham has maintained its allure, especially among classic car enthusiasts. It's not just the high-end materials or the impressive engineering, it's the entire driving experience that continues to captivate people. The Brougham was one of those rare cars that was built with an understanding of what people truly wanted from their vehicle as a comfort, elegance, and an emotional connection. The emotional appeal of the Brougham is timeless. Today's car buyers may be looking for modern technology and efficiency, but they also seek out a level of comfort and intimacy that the Brougham gave its owners decades ago. The connection to the Brougham is not just about nostalgia, it's about the deep, instinctual desire for a driving experience that feels personal. The soft seats, the quiet ride, the sense of being cocooned in a world of luxury, those are the things that still attract collectors and car lovers. Moreover, the Brougham stands as a testament to a period when cars were designed with the human experience in mind. Unlike many modern vehicles that focus on performance, status and technological features, the Brougham placed its attention squarely on how the car made you feel. It wasn't trying to impress the world with flashy performance, it was designed to impress the driver with its calming presence. That concept is incredibly rare in today's fast-paced, tech-driven automotive world, and it's a major part of what keeps the Brougham's legacy alive. Collectors today aren't just looking for cars, they're looking for cars that tell a story, that provide an experience. The Mercury Marquis Brougham is a prime example of a car that offers both. Its blend of luxury, craftsmanship, and quiet elegance has kept it in the hearts of those who truly understand what makes a car great. It's not just a relic of the past, it's a car that continues to remind us of what was once, possibly where the journey was just as important as the destination. In an era dominated by rapid technological advances, the Brougham serves as a reminder that some qualities, like emotional comfort and personal space, never lose their appeal. It's a timeless car, one that continues to captivate enthusiasts and reminds us that true luxury lies in simplicity. When we look back at the 1974 Mercury Marquis Brougham, it's clear that it wasn't just another luxury car from the past. It was a defining moment in automotive history, a car that encapsulated an entire shift in the way we thought about driving. The Brougham wasn't built to be the fastest, the most powerful, or the most stylish. It was created to be something much more valuable, a sanctuary on wheels. At its core, the Marquis Brougham was about providing an experience that most cars at the time simply didn't offer. In an age where vehicles were shifting toward performance and style, the Brougham set itself apart by focusing on comfort, quietude, and emotional connection. It was a car that understood the driver's needs on a deeper level. It wasn't about the thrill of speed or the spectacle of appearance, it was about peace, relaxation, and creating a refuge from the outside world. The emotional appeal of the Brougham, with its plush interiors and serene drive, continues to resonate with car lovers today. Even as technology continues to evolve, the qualities that made the Brougham great remain relevant. The car's legacy isn't just in its design, it's in the feelings it evoked in those who drove it. People don't remember the Brougham for its specs, but for the calm it provided, and that's something that's far more enduring than speed or style. In today's world, where many vehicles are packed with features that prioritize convenience and efficiency, the Brougham offers a reminder of a simpler time when luxury was about creating a space for emotional peace. It's a car that continues to inspire admiration, not because of its technical prowess, but because of its heart. The Brougham's ability to create a personal connection with its owner is something that still strikes a chord with classic car enthusiasts and collectors alike. Ultimately, the 1974 Mercury Marquis Brougham stands as a true automotive legend. It changed the way people viewed luxury cars, proving that a car could offer much more than just transportation. It could provide comfort, relaxation, and a sense of peace in a chaotic world. That's why, decades later, it remains a cherished icon in the world of classic cars. A car that's more than just metal and leather, it's an experience, one that lives on through every owner and every admirer. The design of the 1974 Mercury Marquis Brougham was more than just visually striking, it was a masterpiece of comfort, elegance, and functional luxury. Unlike many of the cars from the era that sought to impress with excessive chrome, sharp lines, or excessive ornamentation, the Brougham took a more restrained approach. It was all about creating a refined, dignified appearance that suggested luxury without shouting it. And in that understated beauty, it made a statement that still resonates with car enthusiasts today. Looking at the Brougham from the outside, the first thing that stands out is its smooth, flowing lines. The car's design exudes a quiet confidence, with an elegant front end that tapers into the longer body, providing a sleek yet commanding presence on the road. The grille was broad, but not too aggressive, with a classic, refined look that spoke of a time when cars were built with purpose and pride. Its 116-inch wheelbase contributed to a smooth, stable ride, while the 19.5-foot overall length added an undeniable sense of authority, without overwhelming its surroundings. The Marquis Brougham didn't need to be the biggest car on the block. It was the kind of car that stood out simply by being the best version of itself. The exterior styling wasn't just about looking good, it was about serving a practical purpose as well. The long, clean lines minimized wind resistance, contributing to a smoother ride and better fuel efficiency for a car of its size. The flowing design not only enhanced its aesthetic appeal but also made the Brougham a quieter, more comfortable car to drive. Step inside the Mercury Marquis Brougham, and it becomes immediately clear why this car was considered a luxury vehicle in every sense of the word. The interior was nothing short of opulent, with premium materials chosen for both their appearance and tactile feel. Plush velour seating, rich leather accents, and soft touch surfaces were strategically placed throughout the cabin to create an environment that felt less like a car and more like a personal sanctuary. The seats themselves were a work of art, wide, supportive, and cushioned, offering the kind of comfort that encouraged long drives, without ever leaving the driver or passengers feeling fatigued. The dashboard was designed to be visually appealing, but also functional. Every button, dial, and gauge was placed with care, ensuring that everything needed was within easy reach. The layout was intuitive, with a focus on simplicity and clarity and no cluttered designs or confusing controls here. The absence of complex electronics or overwhelming tech features meant that the Brougham's interior felt more like a serene retreat than a high-tech cockpit. It was a place where people could unwind, not get distracted by unnecessary gadgetry. One of the standout features of the Brougham was its noise isolation. The car was engineered to create a tranquil environment, a sanctuary from the outside world. The interior was lined with thick insulation, and the windows were made of heavy glass to block out outside noise. The result: a driving experience that was virtually free of distractions. Whether cruising along city streets or navigating highways, the cabin remained remarkably quiet, an important feature for a car that prioritized comfort. In an era when many cars were noisy and turbulent, the Brougham's peaceful drive was revolutionary. The seats, combined with the smooth ride quality, created a driving experience unlike any other. Many owners of the Brougham noted how they could spend hours in the car without feeling the slightest discomfort. Whether it was a cross-country trip or a short drive to the store, the Brougham offered an unhurried, relaxed journey. It was designed to take the driver and passengers away from the stresses of the world, creating a comforting cocoon as soon as the doors were closed. Beyond its exceptional comfort, the Mercury Marquis Brougham also featured a range of other luxury features. The car was equipped with automatic climate control, which allowed the driver and passengers to maintain the perfect temperature without ever needing to adjust a dial. Power windows and a power adjustable seat added to the ease of use, while the soft, plush carpeting beneath your feet enhanced the feeling of luxury with every step inside the vehicle. But it wasn't just the luxury features that made the Brougham stand out, it was how it all came together. The way the materials, the design, and the functionality worked in harmony to create an unparalleled driving experience. The Brougham was never the loudest car on the road, but it was always one of the most comfortable. It gave you the feeling that you were driving something special without needing to broadcast it to the world. And let's not forget about the performance. While it may not have been a performance car in the traditional sense, the Brougham's V8 engine was more than capable of getting the job done. It provided smooth acceleration and effortless cruising on highways, making it a perfect choice for long-distance driving. Despite its size, the car's engineering made it feel lighter and more agile than you'd expect from a full-size luxury sedan. For a car that was created in the mid-1970s, the Mercury Marquis Brougham was incredibly ahead of its time. It wasn't simply a car, it was an experience. From the quality materials inside to the careful engineering under the hood, every aspect of the Brougham was designed to make the driver and passengers feel like they were in the most comfortable, luxurious space possible. It was the type of car that you didn't just drive, you experienced it. And in a world that's constantly moving faster and pushing for more, the Brougham reminds us that sometimes, the best thing a car can do is give us a peaceful place to be. What made the 1974 Mercury Marquis Brougham stand out wasn't just its design or its luxury, it was the remarkable engineering that went into creating a car built for ultimate comfort. The Brougham wasn't just about looking good on the road, it was about creating a driving experience that enveloped its occupants in smoothness, serenity, and an almost effortless ride. When Mercury engineers sat down to design this car, they did so with one main goal: to redefine comfort on four wheels. First and foremost, the foundation of the Brougham's comfort lay in its suspension system. In a time when many cars had stiff suspensions designed for performance or handling, the Brougham took a different approach. The car was equipped with a sophisticated, soft-riding suspension that absorbed bumps and road imperfections with ease. This was achieved through a carefully tuned coil spring system and double wishbone front suspension that allowed the car to glide over rough surfaces without any harshness. Whether driving on a smooth highway or navigating through city streets riddled with potholes, the Marquis Brougham provided a driving experience that was remarkably smooth and controlled. The softness of the ride wasn't just about suspension, though. The chassis was built to be exceptionally rigid and stable, preventing excessive flexing that might have compromised the quality of the ride. This engineering decision meant that the Brougham could handle the weight of its larger frame while maintaining a level of comfort that many other luxury sedans of the time couldn't match. The car's unibody construction, combined with the well-designed suspension, gave it a planted feel, making sure that passengers inside never experienced uncomfortable body roll or the unsettling feeling that sometimes accompanies driving a larger car. The handling of the Marquis Brougham was another key point of its engineering. While it wasn't designed to be a performance car in the traditional sense, the car's engineers were able to give it a surprisingly agile feel for its size. The steering was power-assisted, making the car easy to maneuver, even for drivers who might not be used to handling a full-size vehicle. Despite its size, the Brougham never felt unwieldy. The handling was light, responsive, and effortless. It was the perfect balance between comfort and drivability. To enhance the quietness and isolation that defined the Brougham's driving experience, engineers went to great lengths to address the issue of road noise. The car was designed with extensive soundproofing, which included thick layers of insulation between the cabin and the outside world. The windows were made from heavier glass to keep out external noise, and the door seals were constructed to prevent any air leaks that could cause wind noise at higher speeds. This sound engineering allowed the Marquis Brougham to maintain its serene environment, even when cruising down highways at higher speeds. Inside the car, the sound of the engine, road, and wind was almost entirely muted, allowing the driver and passengers to enjoy their time in the car without distraction. The 1974 Brougham also introduced advanced climate control systems for the time. The automatic climate control system allowed passengers to set their desired temperature, ensuring a consistently comfortable cabin environment. Whether it was the heat of summer or the chill of winter, the system kept the temperature stable without requiring constant adjustments. This was a key factor in making the Brougham feel like an ideal place to relax, whether on long drives or short trips around town. The car's overall interior acoustics were meticulously engineered to complement the comfort-focused design. The cabin, designed with soft materials and acoustically tuned surfaces, was constructed to minimize the intrusive sounds typical of a car. This helped enhance the feeling of tranquility when inside the vehicle. Coupled with the plush carpeting and thick seat padding, the Brougham's cabin felt more like a high-end lounge than a typical car interior. It was as though every part of the vehicle, from the materials to the construction, was crafted to ensure that passengers felt at ease from the moment they stepped inside. Another crucial component of the Brougham's comfort was its powerful V8 engine. While it was certainly large, the engine was designed not just for performance but for smoothness. The V8 provided more than enough power to cruise effortlessly, and it did so with a level of refinement that minimized vibration and noise. Whether accelerating on the freeway or idling at a stoplight, the engine operated with a smoothness that perfectly complemented the rest of the vehicle's design. This focus on engine refinement contributed to the Brougham's calm, serene ride, giving it a luxurious feel that was both powerful and unobtrusive. Beyond the physical aspects of the Brougham's engineering, there was a psychological element at play. The design and engineering team understood that comfort wasn't just about physical ease, it was about creating an environment where the driver and passengers could feel at peace, free from stress. That's why the Brougham's engineering was about more than just practicality. It was about understanding the deeper, emotional connection people have with their cars. Every choice here, from the suspension to the climate control, to the soundproofing and engine designer, was made with the goal of creating an experience that transported you from the hustle of daily life to a state of personal relaxation. In the world of luxury cars, comfort is often the most overlooked element, as many are more focused on performance and style. But the 1974 Mercury Marquis Brougham understood that true luxury doesn't need to be flashy or overt. It's about creating a space where the driver and passengers can relax, unwind, and truly enjoy the journey. And in this respect, the Brougham remains an iconic example of automotive engineering, one that focused not on speed, but on serenity, making it a beloved classic that continues to inspire car lovers and collectors today. The meticulous engineering behind the Marquis Brougham's comfort wasn't just about innovation, it was about creating a car that knew what its passengers truly needed. A car that was engineered not just for the road, but for the soul. The 1974 Mercury Marquis Brougham has long since passed its heyday, yet its legacy continues to captivate car enthusiasts, collectors, and even those who've never had the pleasure of sitting behind the wheel. But what is it about this car, built nearly half a century ago, that still holds such a magnetic pull? What makes the Brougham more than just a relic of the past? It makes it a true automotive icon that resonates with modern car lovers today. At the heart of its lasting legacy is the Brougham's unwavering commitment to comfort and refinement. In an era where speed, power, and sleekness were the ultimate indicators of luxury, the Brougham defied convention by prioritizing an experience that was all about peacefulness, relaxation, and indulgence. The car's gentle, composed ride, along with its remarkably quiet cabin, provided a form of escapism that so many cars of the time couldn't match. In today's world, many luxury cars have become so focused on technology, performance, and flashy aesthetics that they often forget the importance of comfort and driver satisfaction. The Brougham, however, never lost sight of its main goal: to create a sanctuary on wheels. That is why its legacy remains so strong. While countless cars have come and gone, the Brougham's ability to provide an emotional connection, to offer that sense of calm and relaxation, is a quality that continues to appeal to today's buyers and car enthusiasts. The Marquis Brougham's impact is also felt in the way it influenced the development of future luxury cars. While it didn't set trends in terms of performance or groundbreaking technology, it set the standard for what it meant to be a truly comfortable luxury vehicle. The car introduced features that, at the time, were revolutionary, such as power seats, automatic climate control, and a suspension system that prioritized a smooth, serene ride. These features were not just novelties, so they were designed with the drivers' and passengers' comfort in mind, laying the foundation for the types of luxury amenities we take for granted in today's cars. Modern luxury sedans owe a great deal to the principles established by the Brougham. Perhaps the most remarkable aspect of the Brougham's legacy, however, is its status among classic car collectors. Many people who own or admire the Brougham aren't necessarily in it for the performance or the style, though those elements are certainly impressive. For them, the Brougham represents a time when cars were more than just transportation. They were expressions of luxury, of comfort, of a lifestyle that cherished the simple pleasures of a smooth drive and a quiet cabin. Collectors value these elements not just because they're rare, but because they represent a certain era of automotive design that is disappearing in today's market. The continued interest in the Brougham isn't just driven by nostalgia, it's also a result of its unique place in automotive history. The 1974 Mercury Marquis Brougham was part of a broader movement in the 1970s, when automakers began rethinking what luxury truly meant. Rather than focusing purely on high performance or cutting-edge technology, manufacturers started emphasizing the emotional connection drivers had with their vehicles. The Brougham exemplified this shift, making it one of the most important luxury sedans of its time. Even after all these years, the Brougham still stands as a symbol of the mid-century American luxury car, one that took its design seriously but also understood that comfort wasn't a luxury, it was a necessity. Today, the world is full of flashy, tech-heavy vehicles that prioritize cutting-edge features like advanced infotainment systems and self-driving capabilities. While these features may represent the future, the Brougham serves as a reminder of a time when cars were more about the experience of driving and less about impressing the world with gadgets. In the world of classic cars, the Brougham has found its niche. It's not the car for everyone. It doesn't have the aggressive style or the raw power of muscle cars, nor does it boast the technical wizardry of modern vehicles. But for those who appreciate the finer aspects of driving, for those who understand that luxury isn't just about having the most expensive or the flashiest car, the Brougham offers something timeless, a sense of peace, serenity, and undisturbed comfort that's hard to find in today's fast-paced world. One of the most impressive aspects of the Brougham's legacy is its ability to transcend time. It's not a car that feels outdated or irrelevant. Rather, it feels like an authentic, beloved piece of automotive history. For many classic car enthusiasts, it represents a golden era of design, one that married practicality with elegance, one that catered to the human need for comfort without sacrificing beauty. For those lucky enough to have driven a 1974 Mercury Marquis Brougham, the experience is unforgettable. The smooth ride, the luxurious interior, the soothing quiet of the cabin, all of these factors combine to make the Brougham a car that's more than just a machine. It's an experience, and it's because of that experience, that ability to provide an emotional connection to the driver, that the Brougham continues to hold such a special place in the hearts of car lovers. So, what is it that makes the 1974 Mercury Marquis Brougham such a lasting legend? It's not just the way it looks or even the features it introduced. It's the essence of the car, a design built around comfort, a car that understands its driver's needs on a deep, emotional level. This is why, decades later, it continues to be loved by collectors, admired by enthusiasts, and cherished by all who appreciate the true art of automotive engineering. The Brougham's legacy isn't just in its technical accomplishments, so it's in the timeless feeling it evokes, one that still resonates with car lovers today.